So today we are going to study an important editorial that is coming in the Indian Express newspaper. So this editorial is about Macron versus Putin. So what is the Europe's position between Russia and America's uh, whatever we say, that Cold War, hot war, whatever we say. So this article talks about caught between an aggressive Russia and an isolationist America. Europe's moment of reckoning has come. So recently, President Emmanuel Macron's suggestion that NATO should consider sending troops to Ukraine to bolster Kiev's defenses against forces, Russian occupation forces generated a chorus of protest within the alliance, including from Europe's most influential nation, that is Germany. But it was the Russian President Vladimir Putin, unsurprisingly, who came out all the guns blazing against the idea. He issued a dire warning that any NATO troop deployment in Ukraine would not only lead to massive military escalation, but also to Russian use of nuclear weapons. The European controversy over Macron's remark reflects the deepening dilemmas of NATO in addressing the current stalemate in the Ukraine war that entered its third year last month. A year ago, Europe was betting on a successful military counteroffensive by Kiev to push Russian troops out of Ukraine. Those hopes have dissipated as Russia got its defenses together and is now taking offensive actions. Without enough weapons and ammunition, Ukraine has had one arm tied behind its back. Meanwhile, the pressure from the Republican Party across the Atlantic insists Europe must take responsibility for the Ukraine war. Caught between an aggressive Russia and isolationist America, Europe's moment of reckoning has come. France Macron, who led the only serious military power in Western Europe, was responding to that challenge when he said NATO should not rule out the possibility of sending troops to defend Ukraine. Much of Europe is paralyzed by the fear of escalation and is not prepared to confront the geopolitical consequences of a Russian victory, whichever way you define it in Ukraine. The debate initiated by Macron is unlikely to subside. For Europe and NATO have to find a way to preventing further losses for Ukraine. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has mercilessly exposed European illusions about a past conflict continent and revealed its unpreparedness to defend its territory. European measures to ramp up the production of weapons and munitions, like the Russian mobilization of its industry for a war economy, will not only take time but is also deeply unpopular in a continent neared in the lap of a generous welfare state. Meanwhile, NATO has to come to terms with Putin's nuclear threats that have succeeded in deterring the West from deploying a full range of military means to counter Russian aggression. Even as he threatens nuclear escalation, Putin is inviting NATO for talks on nuclear arms control. He is also calling for negotiations to end the war and setting the terms of for peace that demand a pro-Russian regime in Kiev and a neutralized Ukraine. By simultaneous military and political moves, Putin hopes to deepen European political divisions. Can Europe hang together? As Macron reminded the Europeans, this is a war on our soil and our continent.